And joining us to talk all things Oscar on this night before the 95th Academy Awards, he's a world-class film critic. He's also the host and creator of EntertainmentOrDie.com. Say hello to Kyle Osborne. Hi, Kyle. How you doing?
Hey, it seems like it was only 1 year ago that we were talking like this.
Only 1 year ago. Can you believe that? And boy, what a year that was as well. I mean, we talked about the Oscars for some time, and we had 3 sessions actually at that point, but no one could preview or even predict what actually happened. That slap heard across Hollywood.
Yeah.
It disrupted everything. What did you think when you saw that?
I thought the movie was a good movie, and then when it won, a movie from Apple Plus won the Oscar, you know, I was blown away. I still, by the way, remember my 2 favorite movies from last year, which were Nightmare Alley, and you turned me on to the free version that's on YouTube from the 56 or whatever.
Right.
And the other one was Licorice Pizza, which I saw like 4 or 5 times on a link, and I haven't heard hide nor hair of it in the following year. Have you? Has anyone mentioned?
Not at all. Not a single peep. But that's how it goes.
Yeah,
that's how it goes. You know,
we forget. I'm glad we write these things down.
Absolutely. You know, as you mentioned that, and we had talked some time ago about this. There's one film that I'm sad that it didn't make it, which was The Menu, but it just it wasn't in time enough for the Oscars, was it not?
I don't know if that's the reason or what the deal was, but there's another movie that did make the top 10, which is called Triangle of Sadness. Mm-hmm. And to me, those 2 movies, Menu and Triangle of Sadness, are sort of birds of a feather. They're like way over the top, and yet you believe that it could really happen, what happens in those movies.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Ralph Fiennes as the nutty chef in The Menu was fantastic.
Yeah, we just hope we'll remember it next year when this time comes around again for the 96th Annual Academy Awards. Hey, back up with me for a second. When you saw that slap, because we talk about this over and over again, and of course Chris Rock just came out and talked about it for the first time since the year. But when you first saw it, did you think it was a bit, or were you just, you know?
So here's the thing. You know that I'm coming to you from Indonesia, and so I'm like 12 hours ahead of Central Time, depending on if it's whatever. So basically, I just kind of sleep through the Oscars. So by the time I found out that something weird happened and looked at it, I did think it was a bit at first, until I noticed. We've all been embarrassed by something. You could see the embarrassment on Chris Rock's face about a couple of minutes later when he realized it wasn't a bit. And that was
something else.
That was wild, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, I've talked to both of them several times. I've talked to Will Smith many times, going back to like 1993, and all of my colleagues who also have interviewed him those times. We said maybe this whole time Will Smith was playing Will Smith. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, maybe he's a fallible human being like the rest of us under there, and even though he seems so like, I mean, anything for you type of guy, and I'm sure he is a decent guy, but we were like, yeah, he was playing Will Smith when he was talking to us.
Yeah, all that
know?
time, and Chris Rock saw the real Will Smith, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, we're here to talk about Oscar and not necessarily violence in the Oscars. We certainly hope that won't happen again with Jimmy Kimmel. Kimmel's such a nice guy that can't happen to him. But an interesting year in the sense that I will tell you there's one film, and we'll come across it. I won't tell you right now, but as you know, my son is a rising filmmaker in L.A., and one thing that we knew about him as a young child, he knew good films. He's not like his dad. I picked them wrong a million times, but there's one that he picked this year, and it was early on, and we thought, nah, come on. We watched this film, and it's like, oh, it's all over the place, and it's hard to understand. And I think he may be right. It's that Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You have seen
Right?
it. Yeah. What did you think?
I'll be honest. The first time I saw it, I said, what the hell just happened? So I watched it a second time, and I may have watched it a third time. Something I did this year that I don't always have time to do, really, is I watched several of the movies multiple times, like Banshees of Inisherin. The first time I saw it, I was like, it's cute, but everybody's going on and on about it. And then I watched it again, and I appreciated it even more. Same with the movie Tar. And I'm skipping all over the place here. The first time I watched it, I was like, kind of leaves me cold. The characters doesn't seem like there's anything redeeming. But upon second and even third viewing, I was like, I really see it. So that's how I felt about, help me say this, Everything, Everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, right. Everything, Everywhere.
Upon second and third viewing, I said, these guys, they call them the Daniels, the two directors, Daniel Kwan and Daniel, I forgot the other guy's name. They've come up with something really out there, and here's probably what your son noticed, and something that I always think about every year. Have I seen this movie before? And if I have I seen a better version of it? I have not seen that movie before.
Okay. He compared it to Inception. If you remember Inception a few years ago with what's his name?
Sure.
Yeah.
2010, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
But what I can see some parallels there. But one is kind of a raucous comedy at times, and also sentimental at times, which is Everything All at Once. And the other one is kind of more of a cool, hip, slick Christopher Nolan type of vibe. So to me, those would be the major differences. But he's the filmmaker, and I know he studies these more closely than I. But all I thought was, I haven't seen this movie before, so I'm going to have to watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk first of all about some of the major categories here. Let's take a look. We've got first up, ladies first, of course, Best Actress and Best Actress category. Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas, Blonde, Andrea Riseborough, To Leslie, which I really, really loved. Not quite sure about her. We'll talk in a second. Michelle Williams, Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh, of course, Everything, Everywhere. What's your favorites among this group and the Best Actors?
So this is a two-woman race between Michelle Yeoh and Cate Blanchett. Who gave, well, let me put it this way. Sentimentally, I really would like to see Michelle Yeoh win that. She's been literally kicking people's butts for over 20 years easily, right?
Yeah.
And she did. It was such a tricky performance, and she really brought so many different facets to the character that it was great. Having said that, I have watched Tar, I do believe, 3 times now, and Cate Blanchett is just doing stuff that's just in a whole nother stratosphere. The things that she's doing, the lines that she's making. I was just watching a little interview with the director, Todd Field. When she sort of goes on the stage toward the beginning of the film to be interviewed, he had something like 32 or 36 camera setups that he was going to use. but he doesn't like doing that. He loves doing oneers, as they call them, you know. And he said, I wanted to do a oneer, a continuous shot, without anybody realizing that they've just watched a continuous shot.
Oh, yeah.
And in order for him to pull that off technically, Kate Blanchett has to pull off every microsecond. She has to sound like she's been studying music her whole life. She speaks fluent German in the film. I'm like, man, if she doesn't win, I don't know what you got to do. But you know what? Meryl Streep doesn't win every time that she gets nominated. So it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all to see Michelle Yeoh get her moment.
No, absolutely not. And, you know, I'm as you know, a big watcher of television as well. And I was telling my wife, only Trekkers and Trekkies see this thing. She just had a 2-season run on the latest, one of the latest incarnations of Star Trek Discovery, which was incredible, long before everything and everywhere hit the market and came on the landscape. So when this popped up, I thought, yeah, she's well overdue. Well overdue.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So it's Michelle or it's Blanchett, and don't put your money anywhere else.
Okay. No, well, let me put money in at least one other category with Ana de Armas, who. I don't know if folks remember, and again, I'm a big James Bond fan. She popped up for a quick turn in the last James Bond, and it was quite a fascinating, very impressive turn. And I thought, geez, you know, why didn't they just let her stay for the entire film? I mean, it was that impressive. Her popping up with Blonde.
She's very good.
She really is. And I thought she did great work with that. It was a hard film to watch because, as you know, it's not your average biopic of Marilyn Monroe, and I think a lot of people who saw it were a little surprised by the direction of it. But I thought she nailed that. I don't know if she'll get the award.
Did too. That's the first movie that I saw this season, and I thought. I'm embarrassed to go back and read my review. I was like, yeah, this is going to get so many Oscar nominations, and she's going to be part of it. Of course, English is her second language, and so she's playing Marilyn Monroe with a slight but noticeable Spanish accent, which some people didn't dig. You know,
really?
They're like, oh, you can't do that.
I got to go back and watch that. I didn't notice it. I don't think I noticed that, but you did. You did detect that.
Well, I was they hit me to it beforehand that that it was going to be there, and I didn't notice it. But I thought I didn't care. You know, she was doing the whole breathy Mr. President thing, and she was amazing,
convincing.
You know, they didn't like it took a lot of critical hits, but you're right, she did a great job.
Yeah, I really do think she did her work. Moving on to the supporting actress category. We've got Angela Bassett, of course, for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Hong Chau the Whale, Kerry Condon, Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere, and Stephanie Hsu, Everything Everywhere. We got two. I love it when you've got two actors, actresses competing from the same movie in the same category. This always makes things interesting for me. What do you like in this category?
Well, a lot of times it splits the vote and neither one wins, but Kerry Condon won the BAFTA and Jamie Lee Curtis just won the Screen Actors Guild Award. And I really, I kind of go for the story. I want to hear a good story, and we'll talk about this with Brendan Fraser later. But to me, Jamie Lee Curtis is this more interesting story. Why do you watch? Because you want to see the drama and the speeches and the speech that she gave at the SAGs. She's like, I'm a 64-year-old woman, and I'm doing yogurt commercials about how to make your stomach regular But here she is, and she was very good in it, very funny in it. So
Yeah.
right now, my sentimental favorite would be Jamie Lee Curtis. But Carrie Condon from Banshees of Inisherin has a little Mo behind her too.
Yeah, yeah. I would have to agree with you with Jamie Lee Curtis. She's always been a hoot, and now she's like a goat hoot. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
she realizes her weight and her breadth in the industry, and she seems to use it to her best ability. It's just amazing.
I didn't even know, Elliot. I didn't even know that was her at first. The first
Right,
time I watched it,
right,
until yeah, I was like, oh wow,
right.
yeah, she did look familiar.
Yeah, I recall some of the production stills immediately or prior to the film's release, and they made a big deal out of the fact that she just kind of she let her middle hang out, and it's like, okay, I'm older
Yeah.
now. I'm not the Jamie Lee Curtis from the Halloween movies. Here I am with all the
Right.
blemishes, and you're just gonna have to say, just looking at it, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's brave. That's brave. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Let's take a look at the actor category. Best actor, Austin Butler. Breakout role with Elvis. Colin Farrell, always a good look in his turn in Banshees of Inisherin. Brendan Fraser, The Whale. Paul Mescal, After Sun, and Bill Knight. I always have trouble with this name. Knightley.
Nice.
Knighty.
Yeah. They need a consonant in there with all the yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What you going with in this one?
You know, so this one has kind of come down to a 2.5-man race, which is Austin Butler's been winning some, Brendan Fraser's been winning some. Colin Farrell has, I think Colin Farrell won the BAFTA. My sentimental favorite is Brendan Fraser. He's a great guy, and again, it's a good story. This guy was in the Hollywood purgatory for years and years,
Yeah.
and couldn't buy a job.
Right.
And then Darren Aronofsky, this director, gives him a shot at this really no budget movie. Takes place mostly in one little living room. Actually, I think almost all of it, except he walks out the door one time. But anyway, and again, you see the speeches. The speech when they first showed this at Venice, and the place went crazy, and he's just standing there on the stage, and the tears are just streaming down his face. This man has who was that former Speaker of the House who used to cry all the time?
Yeah, Boehner, John Boehner. He's got the John Boehners going on.
This guy, Brendan has cried more tears than John Boehner the past 2 months, because every time he won an award, he's moved by it.
Yeah.
And plus, it's a great performance. He's not taken over by the effects. People think Austin did a great job as Elvis, which I agree that he did a great. Wasn't my favorite movie because I thought Baz Luhrmann, the director, was just kind of too all over the place, and Tom Hanks, from whose point of view the story is told as Colonel Parker, to me is horrible. One of the worst on-screen foreign accents I've ever seen from the beloved Tom Cruise. I'm sorry. And so if it's not Butler or Fraser, it'll be Colin Farrell sneaking in there.
Yeah. I get the impression that it's going to be Fraser. I guess only because some people tend to, and I do this. I fall into this trap. I read what might be possible in the Oscars based on the previous awards that have gone down, and I think he's won it twice in some of the previous award shows. I think the SAG, and I forget Golden Globes or maybe another one. But it seems to.
Well, he kind of boycotted the Golden Globes because he has accused a former higher up in the Golden Globes of having done something inappropriate to him. But my group, the Critics' Choice Association, we did award him the Critics' Choice Award.
That's right.
And we're not the Oscars. We're we're more than the Golden Globes these days. But he was really touched by that. So I just want to see him win for the speech.
Hey, stop me. Sorry for a second. Back up for a second. I can't let you go by. What's that mention about something that was done to him that was inappropriate and he boycotted the Golden Globes? Give me the inside.
It wasn't that many years ago. He accused, and I can't remember the guy's name, which is probably good to keep me from being, a lawsuit. But there was a guy in the Golden Globes who Fraser says basically groped him, an unwanted advance. And that gentleman denies having done that. But the Globes already had all this other trouble. They had no racial diversity. They really were running so low on credibility. So Fraser said they still nominated him, I believe, but he said that he wasn't going to attend, and he didn't. And they gave it to, well, they do two, don't they? They do a musical and they do a drama. But Austin Butler, I think they gave it to Austin Butler and Colin Farrell, the Globes did.
Right, yeah. Austin Butler I would like to see, because again, I put Austin Butler in this category with Ana de Armas. They're kind of getting started, the careers. I mean, they've been out there for a while, at least de Armas has been.
Yeah.
But they've got two breakout roles from two iconic characters. And my wife has watched Elvis like 3 times. She's tried to encourage me to at least watch it a 4th time. I'm like, I saw it the first time. Fine movie. The one great thing I thought about the film that he did was that he took the liberty, or he took the time to try and do some of the singing and really incorporate some of as much of his talent into that as possible. So I have to give him plenty of credit for doing that and almost bringing that character to life. But again, Brendan Fraser, I have to agree with you. I think Brendan Fraser's going to pull that out this year.
They're both, put it this way, it's not going to be a disappointment. No matter who wins, it will have been a worthy award.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the Best Supporting Actor category. Brendan Gleeson in The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry in Causeway, Judd Hirsch in The Fablemans, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ke Huy Quan in Everything Everywhere. Who you liking in this lineup?
My personal favorite, because the second of the movie was for Brian Tyree Henry. When I first saw that movie, I said, I know that Apple Plus is trying to position this as an awards contender for Jennifer Lawrence. This guy is, a big man who's standing in his swimming pool with no shirt on from the waist up, literally let it all hang out and showing that vulnerability. And it was such a great performance. I'd sure like to see him get it. He did get the SAG, by the way. However, what's the better story? Ke Huy Quan, because you've seen him. He also, like Brendan Fraser, spent many years in the desert without getting much work.
Absolutely.
And now he's found this part for which he's already been awarded. So if you and I were betting men, and we're not, because work.
Right.
But
even though we're in Las Vegas, not betting. No, not at all.
we would probably be best to put our money on him.
Absolutely. And Ke Huy Quan, you're absolutely right. In the desert, beginning with, if people don't remember, with Indiana Jones, if I remember. He was that iconic breakout star.
Yeah.
And then kind of picked up, I believe, on The Goonies and a couple of other roles, and then just went on radio silence for years.
And I hope that at the very least, and I'm pretty sure, that this is going to get him signed to at least one more gig, if not a couple of more.
Yeah, I would hope so. He's actually my favorite in this category, I have to say, because although I, like many people, had difficulty trying to connect with the film itself and just trying to connect with the story. I thought many of the portrayals, including his, were just fascinating. He played this character that was in and out of different roles throughout the entire movie, and every one was convincing and fascinating. And he, for my money, was almost the best part of that entire movie.
Yeah, well, he definitely, I think, was the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's move on to director, if we can. This year's director category, well, I don't know. Martin McDonough, Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan, and Daniel Scheinert, Everything, Everywhere. Steven Spielberg back in the running for The Fabelmans. I suppose the film that he always wanted to do, from all accounts. Todd Field-Tar and Ruben Östlund in The Triangle of Sadness. Who do you think is going to pull it down on this one?
Well, again, if you're betting, go with the Directors Guild, the DGA, because something like, 90-something% of the time, whoever they give the award to wins the Oscar, and they gave it to the Daniels, the so-called Daniels, this year, which, that's cool. I kind of feel like Todd Field from Tar was really doing some next level stuff, but Elliot, every year there's at least one surprise, like out of nowhere, like who saw that coming? And I'm thinking that maybe they give Todd Field the original screenplay Oscar and give the directing Oscar to the Daniels.
No kidding.
But, there are no losers in that category, right? I mean,
no, not at all.
I don't think it was Spielberg's best work, but he's Steven Spielberg, And
yeah, how much does how much do you think that counts for in Hollywood these days? I mean,
it counts a lot. Yeah, he really knows how to sell his own films, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he does all the press, and he comes up with the backstory. I don't care what movie he's directing, he will have a backstory that's got a personal slant to it that just draws you in. The man can sell a movie. I don't. The Fabelmans, it's got nominated sort of all around, but it hasn't really taken anything big that I can think of at all.
No, it hasn't.
So unless John Williams gets a score or something like that, I wouldn't. I count out Mr. Spielberg this year.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And then the big category, and literally the big category. I mean, in recent years, they've just expanded this out. Look at all those films for Best Picture: All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, Way of the Water, Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun, Maverick. Really? And Triangles of Sadness and Women Talking. Don't get me wrong. I say that from a person who is a pilot. I love flying. I love the first Top Gun. I thought this was done so much better with all the technological advancements. But it's just like, it's the Top Gun.
I wasn't sure why that was in there either.
Yeah.
Unless it was one of those deals where all the separate disciplines, like the Editors Union and the Producers Guild and all those things, kind of each have their say-so, and it kind of adds up on a movie like that. The last time I saw Top Gun, I believe, was 1986. I was slightly younger then than I am right at this moment, and I just felt like, I don't remember Top Gun all that well, but this is kind of what I remember it being like and looking like and kind of sounding like.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, technologically.
But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, but for serious discussion, who do you think wins in this category?
Right now, it's looking like Everything Everywhere All at Once. If All Quiet on the Western Front weren't the front runner in the international category because it's a primarily German language film, then I would say it has a shot for the same reason that Top Gun got the nomination, because of all of the technical categories where the voters will come in. So I would have, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to win. But then, what was the one last year we thought was going to win? And then
I know. Right. Exactly. We did that, and I can't remember. We may wind up doing that again. What was that from last year?
I just remember that we were wrong.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Across the board on that.
Or I was wrong, and you might have been right.
I meant to look back at that.
Right.
Really should have. I think you were right.
Yeah.
I think you were right, and we had argued about that. I'm thinking, and I just watched this last night. I was mentioning this before we went on air. All Quiet on the Western Front. My son Trevor's been after me to watch this since it showed up on Netflix, and it took me this long to do it. A fascinating film. Hard to watch, obviously. I even got my wife to look at it from afar, and she does not like war one bit. But she has to admit that, it was a good film. It was well shot. I thought the story was good. One thing I had a problem with, and you said it was a German language film, and yet we're still doing this thing where Germans sound like they're from the UK. What's that all about?
Like the old biblical movies, right? Where the Roman soldiers sound like they're from East London.
Yeah, exactly. That was a little disturbing. Not so much the accents, but there was some dialogue in there which was particularly British. And I thought, okay, it's a little disturbing, and it takes you out of the illusion. At least it does for me when I see things like that.
I see.
Yeah, but
I was disappointed. I tried to watch as many international films as possible, and there were 2 Korean movies that I liked much better. But if All Quiet takes home an Oscar, it'll be for Best International Film, what we used to call Best Foreign Language Film, back in the old unenlightened days.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna step out on faith and say All Quiet will get it as a dark horse in many, many ways. Although, write it down. Intellectually, I'll go with Everything Everywhere. It would not surprise me if I'm wrong this year, But you're going with Everything.
Well, that's when you know it was a good year, when you have so many contenders that are that close together. Then you know you've had a decent year.
Yeah.
And I think 2023 is a decent year in the end.
Absolutely. Decent year, and we'll have to see on Sunday, certainly. Kyle Osborne, thank you so very much for taking the time to do this on year 2. I would be remiss if we did not talk about entertainmentordie.com. How many years now? Almost a decade or more, is it not?
I think around 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I've just kept to the side. I have other TV and radio gigs that have come and gone along the way. I try to always keep that over there just for my own entertainment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
I mean, it's entertainment or die, so I don't want to die. So,
but you can find you can find all of Kyle's reviews and his thoughts about many films and TV projects and all things on film and on tape right there at entertainmentorDie.com. Again, Kyle, thank you so much for spending time with us. The Oscars tomorrow night, Sunday. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and we'll see you in a year. Say hi to the wife and kiss the kid for me, and thank you so much for coming on.
And
today.
you do the same. Your wife Arnisha is such a talented actress, and I'm sure Trevor is a talented budding filmmaker as well.
All right. Kyle, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. Remember, the Oscars airs March 12th. Be sure and check your local listings for a time or stream near you. Well, that's it for now for this week. Be sure and like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, then be right back here next week for more of Now. Till then, take care. Peace.